So obviously Mike Budenholzer didn't put his best foot forward this postseason in terms of the amount of minutes he gave Giannis and the play calling for Giannis. And you can also argue that outside of Middleton, Giannis's teammates are simply not good enough when it comes to the postseason. But with all that being said, I just have a simple question. Is Giannis really the guy? Because we've now seen in 2 playoff series that when Giannis goes up against a good team with a good coach and a lot of big defensive players who can switch and communicate really well and help and all that stuff and build that wall around Giannis, that it slows him down. I mean, against Miami, his game 2 was pretty damn good. I mean, he had 29 points, 61% true shooting, and he was playing great in game 4 before he was hurt. He was actually dominating in that game. But you look at game 1, he had 18 points, and it was not efficient. I mean, Chris Middleton had the best game of the Bucks in that one. Giannis missed a whole bunch of free throws in that one. In game 3, Giannis had 21 points, but it was not efficient at all. He also attempted 7 threes in that game. It can't be this simple to slow down a guy who is this good. But when we look at the Miami series and then also the Raptors series, where Giannis was still very good, but he wasn't best player in the league good, does it not bring up some questions? Now, I'm not suggesting the Bucks should for 1 second move away from Giannis or anything. I mean, they're never going to get a player as good as him again for like 20 years. When I looked up on NBA.com pick and roll ball handlers and how often they run pick and rolls in the postseason, number 1 is Luka at 16, then it's Donovan Mitchell at 15 per game, Karis LeVert at 10 per game, Damian Lillard 10 per game. Giannis only has about 2 possessions a game, at least in these playoffs before he was eliminated, where he was the pick and roll ball handler. And I understand that, you know, he's 7 feet and he's not as good of a ball handler as some of those guys are, but is it possible that he needs to just run some simple sets like that more often to just get him going downhill easier? The obvious counter to this is, well, they'll just go under the screen because he's not a great shooter. That is true, but number 1, you can run the screen within the three-point line, which makes it tougher to go under on. Philly does this sometimes with Embiid. You can also set the screen super, super high for Giannis to give him a running start. Now, it's a little tougher to be a great ball handler when you're that tall, but I'm just thinking against a Toronto or a Miami where it's Jimmy Butler, it's Bam, it's Spoelstra's rotations and all that, or for the Raptors it was Siakam, Kawhi, Lowry, Ibaka, Gasol, just a bunch of really good defensive players. They have ways of beating the sometimes simple ISOs that Giannis gets, or especially the transition stuff. And when you're able to slow down those 2 things, it does become a little bit of like, well, what's the next thing that Giannis can do, right? And he helped out Miami by missing a whole bunch of free throws. Now, is there a chance that Brook Lopez is not the perfect big man to set screens for Giannis in simple pick and rolls? I don't know. I mean, if he can pop out, it's kind of effective. And if you've got to switch that, then, well, Giannis, we assume, can beat whoever was defending Brook Lopez off the dribble. But that play just doesn't happen very often for the Bucks. And again, we can blame Mike Budenholzer for this, but can we not blame Giannis a little bit for this as well by not pushing back on Coach Bud at all? I mean, we saw it in that press conference where somebody asked him, are you ever going to defend Jimmy? And Giannis was like, no, I'll just do whatever the coach says. That's great and all, but as a superstar, should you not at times be able to be like, hey, coach, maybe we should do something a little bit different? And I'm just saying that something that could be different would be just some more simple screen plays for Giannis as the ball handler, but also as the roll man. If we're looking at the leading role guys in the postseason, Vucevic, Embiid, Jokic, each guy runs 5 to 8 a game, whereas Giannis runs 2 a game, again. And you'd think that Giannis can be better than all those guys at it, right? And so then I have to ask again, do I blame Coach Bud for all this? Do I blame Giannis for having limitations to where he just can't be involved in those simple sets enough? I don't know. And the last one that I've got here is post-ups per game in the playoffs. You'll see Jokic, Embiid, Vucevic, and Davis And then there's Giannis, who runs significantly less than all those guys. It's kind of weird to think about, right? It's like, how is a guy supposed to score 30-something points a game against good defenses if he doesn't run pick and rolls as the ball handler, doesn't set screens in pick and rolls, and also doesn't post up that much? I mean, what he was doing a lot of the time in the Bucks offense was setting screens off the ball and then cutting off of that. And I mean, that stuff is cool, don't get me wrong, but that can't be the main thing. And it seemed like whenever the Bucks went away from that and they just let Giannis go to work, it was in simple ISOs, which you can do sometimes, sure. But for that to be your go-to when you've got this guy who can do so much more, it's disappointing. And again, it's like, do I blame Coach Bud? Do I blame Giannis? Do I blame both of them to some degree? I don't know, but it does make me question, partly, is Giannis really that dude? I mean, can Giannis average 35 a game against a team like Miami or a team like Toronto? Because if we're going to look at you in that light, you got to be able to do that sometimes. And the closest we've seen him to that was Game 4 against Miami, where he had 19 points in 11 minutes or something before he got hurt. So again, do I blame Giannis? Do I blame Bud? Do I blame a little bit of everybody? It's probably that one. The other thing to talk about is the shooting. So, call me crazy, but I really don't think Giannis needs to be some three-point shooter to be dominant in the postseason. Maybe I'm wrong, and we're just so deep into modern-day basketball that it's impossible, but I just feel like if the dude posted up more, he'd be all right. I really do believe that. Now, I guess the other thing to talk about is the free throw shooting, which was pretty alarming this year. 25 years old, and he has his worst free throw shooting season. I mean, B-Ball Breakdown has done a whole bunch of stuff on Giannis's shooting, and I'll just copy what he says. Basically, Giannis starts way too high. He doesn't dip down low enough to allow his whole body to kind of go into the shot, so as a result, his free throw is very upper body dependent. And that's just not going to cut it, man. I mean, he shot 58% in the playoffs. He shot 63% in the playoffs last year at the free throw line. He's got to get better at those. And I mean, you'd think he can. He's shot about 75% for his whole career. So it's just really weird how it went down this season. So yeah, I mean, again, I don't think the team around Giannis is perfect for him. I mean, they really screwed up by letting Brogdon go. We remember that one. Bledsoe is an average to below average starting point guard. And Coach Bud is not as good in the postseason as he is in the regular season. But even with all that being said, still got to ask, is Giannis, is he really that dude, or is he just on the outside circle of guys who can really be the best player on a title team? I mean, as of right now, based on the last two seasons, I think it's fair to say, no, Giannis is not that guy. But would I bet on him being that guy? Yeah, of course I would. He's way too good, and he's only 25. But I think he's probably got to get a little more assertive, maybe yell at Coach Bud once or twice in his life, and hopefully get the free throws figured out and improve the ball handling and just be like, hey man, give me the damn ball in a post-up or a pick and roll sometimes. Let me just go to work rather than just a simple ISO. So that's it.